Thank you. Thanks, Anne-Marie. Thanks for inviting me to do this. This is a lot of fun. As Anne-Marie said, I know each other for a long time. I've been a member of the New Jersey arts community for a very, very, very long time, working at the Theater Alliance, and now I work for County of Morris. I also do voiceover work, commercial voiceover work, and in my spare time, every Halloween, I carve tons of pumpkins. I've been doing it a long time, almost 25, 30 years. I've been carving pumpkins. I am a student of the Pumpkin Masters method of carving. I really like their stuff. I like the way they the method that they use for pattern transfer, which is what we're going to be doing tonight. What I like about it is that you can adapt it for a lot of things. You can take other logos. I've done things like like the Mets logo. I did the Theater Alliance logo. I did one for Art Pride. I did the Discover Jersey Arts one where I took the logo and did that. I did a few for Field Station Dinosaurs, which is a park up in Bergen County. I did some things for them. So what you're going to learn tonight is a method of pattern transfer, which what they call that. So I sent along a couple of patterns ahead of time. And what I'm going to do is show you some tips and tricks on ways that I like to do it. These are things that I've picked up over the years, watching videos, and with the glut of YouTube, there's so many out there now, which is great. So I've learned some new things in recent years, but these are just things that I picked up along the way, little tips and tricks, and I can show you some of the things, and I can also show you some of the tools that I use to do this. I use everything from the tools that you get in the kits to I use X-Acto knives I've used for some things, and my favorite tool that I love to use is the drill. And I use this to shave along the sides of the pumpkin on the inside, and what that does is it helps to thin the walls of the pumpkin out. You want it to be about an inch, about an inch thick there. And the thicker the better when you're starting, because it just makes the cutting go a lot easier, and it'll have less of an opportunity to cave in. So that's why I do that. And you'll see also when I start, usually what I'll do is I'll cut a notch in the way that I cut it, because then in this way, when I go to put the top on it, I know which way it goes on. So that's just another little quick tip that I like to do. There's some other schools of thought where you actually carve the bottom out and leave the top together. I've tried it both ways. I don't mind it either way. I mean, I like doing it this way on the top, but I've tried it the other way, and the other way works well too. That's just something I like to do. So in terms of the pattern, what I'll do is I'll often make a photocopy of what I'm going to do. This way I can keep the books and reuse them over and over and over and over and over again. They're inexpensive, but sometimes if there's a particular pattern that you like to use over and over, I'll just make a photocopy of it. And then what I'll do is I'll cut it round. So I'll cut the corners off of it and make it round, because it makes the pattern hold to the pumpkin itself a lot easier. And then if anybody, if anybody has any questions along the way, please ask right away. So we'll keep this very democratic. It's fine. So then I'll tape it here. I'll tape it on the bottom. I'll tape it on the side. And if there is a point or a spot where it looks like it's not going to fit, what I'll do is I'll fold it over. So I'll fold one piece over the other and then tape the fold. Can everybody see that? See how that's like sort of folded? And then I'll do that. And then if there's something that's really, really hard, what I'll do is I'll cut the pattern up like this, fold one thing like down like that, and then get a piece of tape, pull the piece of tape out, and then tape it down. I like to get the pattern as close to the pumpkin as I possibly can. That'll help with when we start poking them. It'll help keep the, keep the integrity of the pattern really sharp. So that's what I'll do is just get it on there really, 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 really sharp. So the way that then we'll move on is now you got to start poking it. So you take a sharp thing like this. This is a tool that I got in a kit, but the kit should come with one. And it'll look probably something like that, But any really sharp skewer. I've tried it with toothpicks. I'm not a big, huge fan of toothpicks because they tend to break and then they get soft because the pumpkin's got moisture in it. So a metal one or a plastic pointer really, really works out well. And then you just get to poking. And what I'll do is, it's literally, you're creating essentially a dot to dot. And you'll see what that looks like when we take it off. I've done most of this already, but I wanted to show you what I'm doing now. You just trace around the pattern. And if your pattern has, say, like little things like this, little eyes or little nose or whatever, I like to poke a lot of holes. Make that as clear as possible, because if you just poke a few holes in there, you might forget what it was. So I like to poke a lot of holes in these little tiny areas as much as I can. This is the most tedious part of the pumpkin carving, is getting the pattern on. But this is where you really have to really take your time. Because if you go off the lines, when you go to try to trace it later, it's gonna be a little bit difficult. I tend to stand when I do this so I can look down on it. But that's, for the sake of tonight, it's just fine. So we'll poke as many holes as we can into this. I think that should be everything. So I poked everywhere. Oh, wait, no, I forgot this bat's little mouth. So you can see that I've gone around the whole thing. Ooh, spooky bat with little holes and everything. And then here comes the moment of truth. Now what I'll do is I'll peel off the pattern. And be very, very, very careful when you're peeling off the pattern. You want to keep it intact. So don't rip it off when you're done, because you're going to need it as a reference guide. So then you'll see, you should be able to see all these little holes. Sometimes you'll see a little water dripping out of it, but that's just the moisture. You might see it, you might not. And then what I'll do is I'll take a pen, and then it's just a little fun game of dot to dots. I'll just take a pen and then just copy this. Ballpoint pen works. You might have to like wipe it off every once in a while. And you'll see that the pattern is sort of making its way onto the pumpkin itself. This takes a couple of seconds, so bear with me. All right, oh no, that's not gonna work. Sorry. Then we'll just, you just take a pen and then just trace all the way around. There we go. Because I need to look at this myself. Is anybody following along right now? Or actually, yeah, you going with it though? And so here's like the little eyes. So that's, you'll see I put, a lot of little lines in there, so that's why I did that. This is a juicy pumpkin. Okay. Sharpies work. Ballpoint pens work the best, I've found. So that's what I'll do is I'll just trace this all the way around. And then once you're all done, this is going to take me a couple minutes. Felt tip pens work really well. This is a really juicy pumpkin. So once you get that, then you'll start to see the pattern emerge onto the pumpkin itself. Okay? So take your time with this part of it, because this is where the rubber hits the road, because this is where you're actually transferring the pattern. Let me try a different pen. This is a really, really, really juicy pumpkin. I was having a little trouble with that because of the wetness of the pumpkin. So essentially you're just doing a dot to dot at this point. So you're just taking all the little dots that you poked into there and then just making a dot to dot and then tracing that dot to dot onto the pumpkin surface itself.
So when did you do the inside of the pumpkin? Earlier today?
I just did it right before we started.
Okay.
I just cut it open, gutted it, and then just took all the guts out. Yeah, right before we started. And sometimes if the pumpkin is really wet, it's hard to draw on it, but pencil works, pens. I found a felt tip works if it's a little drier, but it's working. Okay. And then you're just following along. You just follow the pattern as best you can.
So Adam's asking if you have any tricks for taking the seeds and the insides out. Do you use a spatula or a spoon?
I have one of these guys. This is one of these little pumpkin scoops. What also works really well is if you have a wide ice cream scoop works,
Mm-hmm.
or just a really large serving spoon will work as well. And then, you know, there's also these little tools that you can get that have sort of a rough edge on it to scrape, and then the smooth edge as well. But any kind of large spoon. This was a tool that came with a kit that I found, and I like it a lot because it has these little things on the side here, the tines here.
Yeah, it's cute.
It pulls the stuff right out, which is really good. All right, so just gonna do this along with you.
So when did you first start doing pumpkins?
We were trying to figure this out tonight. The first one I did, I think, was 1994 for a Halloween party at a house I was living in. So, yeah, long time. Cool. All right, we're almost done. To make sure I got this here.
So Bob sent us some patterns. If anybody's interested, send an email over to cac@heightstownborough.com and I will forward them over.
Okay, so you can see I've got the pattern for better or for worse on the, it's kind of hard to see with this light here.
Pumpkin launch.
I have a new tripod and it's not behaving. Oh, there we go.
Yep.
So then the pattern's right on here. So then before we start cutting, we just want to make sure that we've got the pattern as we need it on the pumpkin, which we do. And then for cutting, you know, there's they give you the tools and everything. I like to use as small as a tool as you can. And this is where I like to stand and make sure that I'm above it, because what you want to make sure that you're doing is that the cutting, you're going straight in and down. So in and out like that, and just let the knife do the work. So I'm not even really applying much pressure at all. So just going in and out. Another thing what you want to do is a lot of times these patterns will show you the order in which to cut. And that is really, really important. Because what will happen is, you'll see like they'll have like the best way to cut this, where to start. It's usually you go from the center out is usually the best way to go. So what you'll do is you'll start with these little, for this particular one, these bats have little cute eyes and a little mouth. You'll start cutting those out first because they're in the center of it. So I'll do that. So you'll see I'm just, you know, sawing, just an even sawing motion. And you can either, you know, poke the piece through or pull it out, or sometimes it comes out on its own. Ooh, look at that. And then you go in, get the other guy, the other eye.
So it's kind of important to have at least about an inch thickness, so that when you're doing this,
always start with about an inch thick.
Okay.
The thicker,
because
the
if it's too thin, it's gonna like collapse, right?
If it's too thin, what will happen is the motion of going up and down like this will put stress on the flesh of the pumpkin, and you could have the problem of tearing it.
Mm.
That's why you just want to be careful not to do that. And that's also why they tell you to go make sure that you cut the pumpkin in the right order, because if there's something intricate on the side and you're cutting and you have, say, you know, like a thin line right here, and then you're cutting on the side like this, you'll see the pumpkin going in and out and in and out and in and out. So that's why you just want to be careful and start in the middle and work your way out, because this whole area out here outside of the pattern has more integrity than the inside, because the more as you cut into the inside, you're making, obviously making the wall of the pumpkin weaker as you're doing it. So so there you go. There's a little face. So now this is actually still pretty thick. I could have actually cut this a little bit thinner, but what you can also do, another good tip, is to keep it thicker. And as you're cutting it, once you get down, is you can actually start to scrape, and I can show you how to do that, is scrape it actually a little bit on the inside. Thicker is always better, but you can cut it down a little bit if you need to. I think it's always better off just leaving it. Just leave it thicker, the better, and then you'll be fine. Okay, so now we're going to go down here, and again, just go in nice and easy. I'm trying to do this and show you at the same time. This is why I like to stand, because I can get the purchase on it really well.
So they give you all these different tools. Like, do you find that one, you get a favorite tool that just does everything, or do you find that some of those other tools are really handy?
Well, it depends on what you're doing. For this, for the easy sawing stuff, I like the smaller, really small knives. They have bigger ones, like this one is for, like, if you're doing, this one is kind of big there. And it's got two, if you're doing something like a large one like this, where you have, just real big lines and stuff to do, you can use one of these, but for the intricate work, the smaller the better. I just find you have a lot more control over it that way. But then there's other cool tools. These are some clay tools that I've used. So there's another method of actually scraping. Here's a scraping tool where you can actually, like, take some of the flesh off of the pumpkin itself. You can take the top off of it. There we go.
So Adam would know all about that, because
he's go down a little bit, and just take flesh out of the pumpkin, and you can take it lower, and then the light will show up through.
And it's right, and it won't go all the way through. That's kind of cool.
It won't go all the way through. And then here's some other, there's a little V-shaped tool here, and that does kind of essentially the same thing. You can kind of go in and take pieces off like that, which is kind of cool. And there's different pattern books that they sell that are specific for those things, which are really kind of cool. Okay. Getting to the first big chunk of this to come out. Go in from the inside and push it out. And you got the first little. Starting to look like something now. So that's a nice, easy thing there. If you're used to working with clay or anything like that, this will feel very familiar.
Well, Adam's a clay, or he's a ceramic artist. So.
Because it's all about, what do they say about sculpture? It's all there in the stone. You just got to take away the parts that are unneeded.
Right. So it's like I'm thinking about my art history classes, like sgraffito, right, Adam? He's shaking his head, yes.
that's why I use the pattern. I keep it right next to me as a reference. To go in. And then with these sharp turns, I like to come out and then go back in. So what I'll do is I'll go here, I'll finish a line, come out, and then go back in. Things take the curves pretty well. Okay, and then we'll go in.
Oh, wow. That's, yeah, pretty fast.
Comes.
Cool.
And you'll see, you can see the actual, like the thickness of the wall there.
Mm-hmm.
I like to keep it, a little thick if I can.
Cool.
Yeah, it's just because it'll hold together. Because here's a pressure point right here. So if going in and out, and this is it's still nice and stiff, so that's good.
Yeah, it's sturdy.
It's very sturdy. Okay. All right, now I'll do this inside piece here. This is when it'll start to take shape here. Eyes here.
So when you're doing patterns like this, you really need to give yourself enough time to, like when you do the really intricate word patterns and stuff, like that takes quite a good bit of time.
Oh yeah, they can. And to be honest with you, the real work of those is transferring the pattern. Doing the carving itself, takes time, but it's the transferring of the thing itself. That's where, because you really got to be careful, because if you don't get the right little dots in the right area when you go to try to copy it onto the thing later, you're gonna have a really, really, really hard time. So when I'm doing those really, really intricate ones with the lettering and things like that, I take a lot of time to make sure that I'm putting a lot of see, with this one, I was able to do, the dots, hard to see it, not super far apart, but not super close together either, because it's a more sort of straightforward pattern. I'm not going to say simple pattern, but it's a more straightforward pattern than when you're doing, lettering. Lettering is hard. I did one last year for a wedding where they asked for their wedding day in Roman numerals. So I had to put the Roman numerals on there and then carve those. But what I did is I used, we didn't talk about this, I used one of those Funkins, which are the fake pumpkins that you can buy at Michael's, I think.
Oh,
yeah.
They're like the plastic foam kind of thing?
Plastic ones, yeah.
Yeah.
Those are actually pretty cool because, I did the wedding pumpkin for them in a Funkin so they could keep it, so they would have it forever. So that was kind of cool. Those are a little harder to carve because you need to use an X-Acto knife.
Oh yeah.
You really got to be careful because one wrong slip with an X-Acto knife and you're not doing anything for a while. But they're fun. Those are fun because then you have a keepsake.
Yeah. So this is the first time we're going to try, gathering some pumpkins. So now I'll be bugging people for the next week or so to, if they have a pumpkin, to bring it down to Memorial Park. But you live in Morris Plains, and I know in Morristown they've had pumpkins lining out in front of the, I think it's the Vale Mansion, right?
Yeah.
How many do they get usually for?
Oh, they get that event has been growing every year. I don't know what they're doing this year with the pandemic and everything, but I know that they're either doing some kind of virtual thing where they're going to ask people to put their pumpkins out on the internet or something, or they might be having folks coming down. I don't know, but the first year was a few people. We went, my wife and my daughter and I, we went the first year, and there were a few people there. And by like the second or third year that they were doing it, it got really, really, really crowded. So it's a really fun event for them.
Yeah, it's pretty because people like to take pictures and
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then in Hopewell, I don't know if you know, in Hopewell they have individual artists that sort of take giant pumpkins, and they've been doing this for about 5 years now, and each artist does a real artistic interpretation of whatever they want to do,
Right.
and they line them all up, and they do that too. I forget what it's called, the big pumpkin harvest or something.
That's cool. And if you ever get the opportunity, I know that they are doing. There's another big piece coming out there. Up in Sleepy Hollow in Tarrytown, up in upstate New York, is an event called the Blaze.
Right, I've heard of it.
Where they have 100,000 carved pumpkins from some crazy amount like that, and then you walk through the you walk through the grounds up there, and you get to see all these crazy pumpkins, and it's just that was an event that started it started out very, very slow and small. Now it's crazy. I mean, it's so busy. You got to get your tickets way ahead of the time, otherwise you miss out.
Cool.
So if you are, if you're doing a pumpkin and you do it kind of early, there are a couple of ways that you can preserve the pumpkin. A couple of ways that I've seen and I've used in the past is taking petroleum jelly, Vaseline, something like that, and putting Vaseline all over all the cut areas, exposed areas of the pumpkin itself. And what that does is it helps seal the pumpkin and keep the moisture in. And it'll have less of a chance to rot. And then the other thing that I've tried, which also works, is just to spray the heck of the inside with Lysol, and that keeps the mold and the rot down as well.
In short supply right now.
Short supply these days, exactly. But alcohol will do it too. That's also in short supply. But to keep the squirrels away, you can use lemon pledge. If you spray lemon pledge on it, they don't like that smell, so they'll stay away from that.
Those are good tips.
You'll see I've spun this thing a couple of times, and that's just to keep me from just having, one way of cutting. So I'm not having to do this, and everything. I move the pumpkin. I don't move myself. It's easier. And then if you cut, if you do one tonight and you just leave it inside, if you find it starting to shrivel, another cool trick is to fill the bathtub up with a little bit of water and put the pumpkin in cut side down, pattern side down, and it'll rehydrate, which is kind of cool. I've done that a couple of times where, they start to shrivel up a little bit, and then you just cut it a little bit, and then it comes right back. see it's, you know, the work itself, I mean, this is not all that hard. Just a little bit of pressure and really just letting the knife do the work. I'm not really even pushing that hard. Back in.
So you're gonna put this one out in the front porch?
I think I will. We'll see how it comes out. There we go. And then what I'll do now is a couple of things. So, it's just about done. Put a light source in it. I'll put the top on it. Let's see how we doing, how we looking. And then what I like to do then. Okay. So if you see it head on, you see these inside walls here are kind of exposed. What I'll do sometimes is go in and just, you know, take a little bit of this off and just.
Yeah, then we see the fiber parts.
So it gets rid of all those little fibers and stuff, and it just cleans up the lines a little bit. You know, you can kind of go in, but you have to kind of make sure that it looks. You know, you got to be able to, and then like especially up here, you can see where it's real tight up there and the light's not shining through as much. You can just do the same thing up here. And just go in and take a little bit of that out there. And it just opens it up a little bit, see, and it just makes it a little bit lighter there.
So how about kids? Like, has your daughter started to do any of this?
Oh yeah, she's done a bunch of them already.
Okay.
She's been watching Daddy for years, so she likes it. She enjoys it. You know, there's other. What I like about, again, the Pumpkin Masters thing, they don't pay me, so I'm not getting any money from them. I just like them. There's a few other ones out there. You can find patterns out there. You know, Disney puts out a lot of their own patterns and stuff, and ton of them online. Real easy stuff. You know, that's what I like about the Pumpkin Master stuff, is that it's all safe. You know, and they have other. You know, this one right here is not even sharp. I mean, it'll cut the pumpkin, but it won't cut. You know,
yeah, as opposed to using kitchen tools, right?
Yeah. You know, there's some people that go really, really crazy. They'll get their Dremel out and they'll you know, do real fancy things and everything like that. I've done a little bit of stuff like that, but that you can really go, you know, have a lot of fun with different kind of tools and things like that. So that's what I'll do, you know, and I'll just.
Looks great.
I'll just go in and do some other little cleanup things again in here. I'll come in here, take a little bit more of this part down here out. It just helps to clean it out a little bit. But this is like a spaghetti squash. My goodness. What's that?
So I don't know if anybody has questions, but it looks really good.
Yeah.
Feel free to ask away.
This was a quick one.
So somebody asked, will you thin it out now?
What's that?
Will you thin it out now?
Yes. So I'll go in. So what I'll do is I'll go in like this, and I'll take one of these, and I'll just go in and scrape as much of this back stuff as I can. I'll thin it as I need it. You know, if I don't feel that it needs to be thinned out anymore, I might leave it like this. This just needs to be cleaned at this point. I think I might leave this as thick as it is. because I'm a little concerned about this little area right here because it's so thin. I'd rather keep it a little bit on the thick side because as you can see, it'll.
Right, you have to be careful, right?
You just got to be careful, and you don't want to futz with it too much.
So somebody asked, have you noticed an issue with the candle not getting enough oxygen and having to cut extra, wait a minute,
What I do,
extra air holes?
what I'll do for that is, where's my tool? I got a tool for that too. What I'll do is I have one of these, and you can use a knife or something. So what I'll do is I'll take the top and cut a hole.
Careful, that looks dangerous.
I've done it so many times. So it essentially just cuts a hole in the top for you.
Oh, okay.
Here, let me do it over here. It went into the stem. Let's see a towel. There we go. Puts a hole.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
Then when you put it on the top, it has a little vent
Right.
hole.
Extra vents.
Extra vents, yeah. I've been using of late the LED lights. I like those. I had one here a second ago. It's buried. They work. I find those work really, really well. It's lost. Yeah, I'll use the little LED ones that glow. You can find them at there's really, really good ones at like a hardware store. They're not used for pumpkins. They're used for emergency or whatever, but they're super bright and they'll glow for days and days and days and days. I'll use glow sticks. I've used color glow sticks. I did a Ghostbusters one last year, and I used green glow sticks. So I threw a couple of green glow sticks in there, and it glowed green through there. Any kind of light source will work.
Yep, glow sticks is a good idea too.
And they're safer, and you don't have to worry about blowing.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to give out the LED tea lights for the ones at the lake.
Yeah, those will work well.
Yeah, and when they burn out, they burn out.
Glow sticks work great. This is again the little LED flashlight. And sometimes you'll find that it putting it up against the back of it. As my theater training coming in there.
This is the lighting design. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, this is great. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Feel free to unmute
I'm not in a hurry, so feel free to ask some questions if you have any.
If not, we'll wrap it up. Say thank you.
Thanks a lot.
You're very welcome. If you carve any,
thank you very much.
If you carve some, you're welcome. Send them to Anne-Marie. I want to see what you guys ended up doing.
Yes, and you can post them on our Facebook page, or send them to the email address for the Cultural Arts Commission, cac@heightstownborough.com.
Cool.
All right, thanks, Bob.
You're very welcome. This was great. It's good. It's warmed me up for my pumpkin carving.
So yeah, what we're gonna do, we'll post the video on our YouTube channel.
Please do.
And that way people can use it during the week if they don't have their pumpkin ready. Today was so rainy. Yeah. All right, thanks.
You're very welcome. Happy Halloween, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, happy Halloween to you too.
Halloween.
Be safe, everyone.
Happy Halloween.
Bye.